The XFL Gambling Podcast, XFL Championship reaction show on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. Yes, SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using the promo code SGPN and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500 of cold hard cash, baby. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Mesh Shorts. Yes, just in time for summer. We got a brand new line of mesh shorts. Use the promo code SHORTS at store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com for 10% off. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
This is Brian Bosworth, a.k.a. The Boz, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, brother. Peace out. Boz out.
Is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. Do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
This is the XFL.
Yes, this is the XFL Gambling Podcast. Oh, a championship, XFL Championship reaction show pod. And wow, we have a final. We have the first completed XFL football season in over 20 years. And we're going to talk all about it. But perhaps you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to. Well, my name is Colby Dant C.J, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
Yes, human being and fish can coexist peacefully, but can CJ Sullivan and JMark and myself coexist peacefully? We're going to talk about it. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for the host of the Bottom Line Bombs podcast, which you should be subscribed to. They call him the man in the box. Give it up for, well, first off, he's the type of guy that...
He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
I give you CJ Sullivan. How you doing, buddy? And have you pissed in a campfire? How many have you pissed in?
How many campfires have I pissed in? Well, first of all, welcome. Thank you, Colby. Cartel Colby Championship. And back to the question at hand. I'd say under 5, but definitely more than 1. I believe a piss in the campfire has to be one hand on the belt buckle, one hand straight up, with a beer kind of and a wolf howl. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
something very beautiful, very primal about pissing in a campfire.
Yeah, well, this guy, he's definitely probably had a campfire in the past 24 hours. If I had to bet, sure. Perhaps he's pissed in it. But look, he is the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. He is the host of the NFL Gambling Podcast, which you need to be subscribed to both of those. We like to call them Liquid Lunch, but it's dinner time, or I don't know. I'm in fucking South America. I don't know what time zones you guys are in, but anyway, give it up for Justin Mark, a.k.a. JMark. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Columbia and Iowa, same time zone.
Yeah, we keep telling him that. I don't think it's going to stick. I think it's not the time zone that's messing you up down in Columbia, Colby.
Well, I can tell you that I went to a bar last night, and I had this problem like back in my early 20s when you went to New York City or you went to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Where I was used to just like keep drinking until they tell us to stop.
Right. Sure.
Well, that's an issue because in Colombia, it stops when when everyone leaves. So, they don't put hours up on the wall. They're just like, hey, we're still there's people here. Let's keep serving them.
Yeah, this guy wants to keep going. We're gonna keep going. I like it. We're in this together.
So there was that, and look, I'm 40 years old. All right, it just doesn't hit the same way.
Right.
I think I did fairly well though. That was the first time I was like drinking at a bar since my visit. Now I had a couple cocktails at a party, but
you're Rum Dundee. I've seen
Rum Dundee.
You're living a life down there.
I got in those hot air balloons, I got up, still don't know how they work. Still a bit perplexed by hot air balloons. But guys, I know we want to talk about my trip, and I get it because I'm a fucking genius. I mean, I think we're all geniuses, right? Didn't we say the league was just going to manifest a champion? Well, I mean, I guess that's obvious, the league, but I'm saying they kind of helped the team. And we saw that happen. This was, I think, the easiest bet I've made in my life.
Now, granted, you said the same exact thing the week before when Arlington beat Houston. How easy funny that was.
But this one was even easier because when I saw, and I saw this after our show, that 93% of the money was on the DC Defenders. And I'm like, dude, they're going to give it to Arlington. I almost feel like that's how these spring leagues can stay alive. Just bet on what you know.
Yeah. Well,
Bet. It's like, well, we loaded up Arlington. If we just place a bunch of bets, we can lose all the money, or we can gain all the money we lost. I mean, this game was never close. I mean, I guess you could technically say with the 15-yard 4th and 15, it could get close, and it got down to 6 at one point. But I mean, it was 17-0 at one point.
Yeah, it wasn't close. It was a bad first half. I'll say that for DC for sure. It was a bad omen that first play when they blitzed him. They had him for the sack, and then he got out of it and threw that 5-yard. I'm like, oh, this might be trouble or some sign to come that Williams is dialing him up, but he doesn't have the dogs to finish this thing off. And then it was like the perfect storm for like 3rd and longs, and Perez just keeping the chains moving like that. And then Tamu, had 3 interceptions all season, and he had 3 interceptions in the championship game.
And the key one in the red zone. There, right?
They're all key in this fucking game. I know. It was ridiculous. But it was close. I mean, after that 17-0, after the thing, I mean, it was DC kept right at pace, but they just kept going back and forth with it. They couldn't stop them, anybody. So that's what it was.
Yeah, and I mean, I cashed on the money line with the Renegades. I cashed my future with the Renegades. I cashed on the over in this game. But it was call me crazy. I mean, this is rigged, right?
Well, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just saying, I thought it was interesting. You have a team with Tamu, Abram Smith, and then a Greg Williams defense, and they're not the most physical team on the field. That surprised me. That was my biggest takeaway. Is like they got out physicaled by Arlington over and over. They couldn't tackle. They weren't wrapping guys up. Guys were spinning out. Some of the times Arlington guys would get hit, and then it was like they were surprised they were still up. But they're like, oh, I guess I can keep running for a little bit. Like, I couldn't believe that Arlington was more physical.
Well, they're in that hole, and it was definitely tough offensively. I mean, but they didn't keep up with it. But once you got down that hole, 7-0 or 6-0, whatever, and then it was a 3-and-out, drop 3rd down pass, and then another drive, make it 14-0. They next you know it's almost halftime. They finally put it together down the drive, and Tamu throws that pick right in the end zone. They come back and make the field goal, make it 17-0. They score before halftime, 17-6. But like offensively, they had to. They were. Even though Abram Smith did wind up having a game, just ripping off runs. But like you said, JMark, it was kind of like their plays seemed more spotty and just burst plays than it was like Arlington actually just took it to them, power us through.
That's kind of
more sustainable.
But that's kind of what we said all year. We think the path to beating DC is get up early. They've only came back from like a big lead, I think, once. I mean, there was only 10 games or 11 games,
right.
But I mean, I was not surprised. I kind of expected it to go how it went.
I'll just say that. I as a guy who had I'm a little biased. I had a DC, of course. We all know the plus 750 future ticket, and then I could have easily hedged, but as we know, hedging is for gardeners. And I doubled down and bet DC again -6, and it went off at 8.5. I kind of felt good about that. And then luckily I had the over to take some of the damage out. But like I was shocked that it was as bad as it was. It's like, and that's all it takes. It takes like one, just the one game, and it's a perfect game and big game pop. I mean, I don't know.
I want to talk more about that in a second, but before we talk more about the XFL Championship, the $1 million game, I want to tell you that the XFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Shady Rays and Shady May. Yes, Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% off, but you also get a chance to win $500 of cold hard cash. What are you doing, folks? They got you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much, much more. And right now, for our international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered as well with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. Go to shadyrays.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500 in our Shady May contest. We're also brought to you by SGPN Shorts. Yes, you already got your shades. Now it's time to get a great pair of mesh shorts for summer. I'm down here in Columbia. It's hot as shit all day. I was just dreaming of shorts, and SGPN can hook you up right there. Maybe you're in a city like me where it's hot as shit. All right? Or you just want it in the summer. Come on, humidity is a real problem. So this earth is getting warmer, they say. So wear mesh shorts from SGPN. SGPN has just dropped a new line of mesh shorts, perfect for any summer activity. So head over to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Use that promo code SHORTS for 10% off. All right, we are back on the XFL Gambling Podcast. Okay, so I wanted to dive deeper in this because
yes,
you have a 6-6 team that is the champion of the league. I was thinking about this, and I don't think I can recall ever in any sport in my life a team that is 500 can say that they're the champions.
Right.
I mean, in college basketball, you've seen bad teams, win the conference tournament, but they never end up winning the championship. You know what I mean? So college football, no. Hockey, no. I can't think of one league where a 500 team wins.
I kind of compare it to those New York Giants teams that were 9-7 or whatever. 10. They wound up being like 11-7.
That's what I was about to say. So
because there's more playoff games to play. XFL only has 2 games, so they can only get to 6-6. It's still not great, obviously, but I do push back a little bit on saying what a bad look it is for the like. It's not the best look for the league, but also, I mean, that's what happens in playoffs in all sports. It's who wins the playoffs, the tournament. It doesn't exactly mean who the best team was in the regular season, Like it's who gets hot. And the Giants versus Patriots is a prime example of that. Of course the Patriots were the best team, one of the best teams of all time, but they didn't win because a 9-7 Giants team got hot and had the formula to play against them.
Yeah, isn't that the year the Patriots were cheating too?
Well, that was all years.
They burned tapes after that. But
every year,
every damn year with those sons of bitches. Anyway,
I mean, you know what else bothers me though, man, is the human element of this.
Mm-hmm.
We've all talked about how it doesn't make sense how Luis Perez, who looked like the best quarterback ever on Saturday,
sure did.
I don't appreciate the announcers not talking about it. You know what I mean? That's what makes me think it's more rigged more and more. Because I'm like, wait, if you're telling me we're going to break this game down, I'm Greg McElroy or whoever, wouldn't you say right away, you're like, man, they got a steal. Getting Luis Perez for this backup linebacker. What a deal by the Renegades, and it's paying off. Their general manager knows what he's doing, but they don't mention any of that shit. Is that not a red flag, or am I crazy?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it to come from them, to be honest with you. I mean, of course, they're going to be pushed for the league. You know, everyone's going to be pro the league. But there's no accountability anywhere, though. You know what I mean? Like, there's no
honest.
This question should have been answered earlier. But even Stoops in the press post game, he's like, "Yeah, I tell you what, our season did turn around a little bit as soon as we got Perez. It was kind of the difference maker." Oh, was it? Was it the difference maker? And it wasn't. And it wasn't mid-season. It was week like 8.
See, I'm more perplexed by that because if I'm the league, yes, you made that happen, but I wouldn't be telling my announcers to not. I would say, guys, talk about this openly.
They just talk about it. They just talk about how they got him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they made a trade for it. You know, that's all they say. They made a trade for it, and they did.
Any other league, they would be keying in on. Right. On that, like digging deeper as far as like, what do you think about this trade? They got this. They gave up him.
Right.
And I just feel like that.
That's what's disappointing about it. Like, it can be justified of trading Perez because they had Hundley and whatever they wanted to give, whatever you want to do. But you had to get something in return. You can't just get nothing and get return. Or Stoops is like, well, I don't want to actually, get an active player. How about one of these bodies we have here?
JMark, am I crazy here? I mean, don't you think that I just feel like
it should have been talked about more. Yeah, for sure. Even if they just said, I don't know, even if they went through the details of how it all went down or everything, I mean, it should have been talked about more.
I mean, Chris Paul, who got his trade voided from the Lakers, and I feel like that whole playoffs they were talking about, he ends up on the Clippers, and they're talking about, well, Chris Paul, and that trade never even happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this, we saw the direct result. It's like, I mean, he started off the first half absolutely on fire this game, and you wouldn't you say like, man, this guy's playing better than almost any quarterback we've seen in these spring leagues? Wouldn't you want to just dig into that a little bit? I call me crazy.
They did mention how he learned how to play on YouTube. They mentioned that.
I don't know. What takeaways more?
Did he also go to learn some YouTube conspiracies too while he's at it? And
I mean, that's what's crazy is the amount of people that I think just ignore that, and it bothers me. It bothers me because I hate to sound like I'm the maniac, but I'm like, guys, if you trade Magic Johnson, for Frank Brakowski. I feel like this should be a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm dating myself with that reference, but anyway.
No, but I do like comparing Magic Johnson to Luis Perez as well.
Oh, well, Magic taught himself how to play basketball. No. Any other takeaways? What do you think of the fan turnout in the championship game?
I thought it was decent.
Yeah, it seemed lively. I don't know if that was a TV trick or whatever. I'm not sure what the count number was, but it sounded like the crowd was there and they were into it. I'm sure they tarped off about 40,000 seats, but it seemed like it was active.
I think I heard over 20,000.
Yeah.
Those tarp companies, they love the spring leagues. They love Southern California football. You know what I mean? USC, UCLA, okay, right? These spring leagues, perfect. Right. All right. Well, I guess how about this? Season 1 is in the books. What would you like to see from season 2, CJ?
Well, definitely some more transparency. Like you were saying, you pointed out all the red flags of like I know that disappointed me all season was the injury list and like right before the kickoffs, like scratches that you wouldn't hear anything about all week. They were hurt, like there's just no transparency, and I guess that's what happens when the league owns all the teams. And it wasn't just Perez; they were trying to trade everything. The Baramas got caught. I mean, a lot of teams they were just trying to load up to get as good as possible because they knew it was the top and the bottom, and it was obvious what they were doing. But there's no accountability. There's no reporter like asking anyone. There's no GM even coming out with a statement. Just say something about it. You know what I mean? But these injuries, I don't know. You can't have that. You just can't have that. You can't have scratches happening 10 minutes before kickoff where there's no announcement of it all week.
Especially when you're trying to cater into gambling.
Right, and they say it right up front. They say right up front how they're leaning into gambling. We encourage it. Okay, well, know something about it then. That's another thing too with the announcers. They were just talking about gambling just to talk about gambling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of these people had no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like Stormy is because she works for VSiN, but everyone else is just like, yeah, let's do it live over. It's gonna be 5. What? No, I'm sorry. I'm getting told. No, it's 35. I mean 35. What?
JMark, in XFL season 2, 3.0, whatever the fuck we're talking about here. What would you like to see different from this first season?
So I got 2 things. First, the gambling commentators be the XFL Gambling Podcast. I think that would be helpful.
Yes, sir.
So they can just bring us in they don't even have to fly us in. We can tune in virtually and just look at our little cameras like everybody else does. But
I mean, you joke, but I'm pretty sure we could get this done. We could do this.
Right? We can break down the gambling as the games go and whatnot.
Can we use slow motion? Is that okay? Or Blandino's coming at us for that?
Cannot use slow motion. It's got to be in real time.
Put us in Blandino's booth. That'd be amazing.
Yes.
The other thing, we should have leaned into it probably more previewing this game, but last year in the USFL, Birmingham Stallions is where the hub was. Now, obviously, they dominated all season, but then they ended up winning the championship. This year, Arlington is where the hub was, and then they win the championship.
Yeah,
I'm ready to see these other teams get their hubs and actually have home field advantage. They don't have to fly with the other team to their home games. I think that would be good, but I get the financial part. You can't do that right off the bat because you're trying to get ahead of the curve here. So I get that too, but at the same time, I think, when you're on the same flight, taking the same travel as the away team, you're taking away some of that advantage.
Absolutely. I think some of it's just they want to keep an eye on them too, almost. They just can't trust them running around DC all week,
Especially that Francois guy.
Absolutely.
Now, I know, look, transparency is everything for me on this. Like, one of the things I appreciated about the USFL in hindsight that I didn't even realize, but when comparing it to the XFL this season, which, like I said, I'm a fan of both. I hope both exist for the next 100 years at least. But the Pittsburgh Maulers were awful last season. They had no good quarterbacks. What I appreciate is they didn't take Alex McGough and just say, hey, he's a mauler. You know what I mean? I appreciate the honesty. And this is football. This is our team. And until next season, this is what we got to go with. I have a hard time. And I just made a bunch of money off the Arlington Renegades. But I honestly just have such a hard time with that. But one more thing.
It doesn't sit well, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And the fact that no one's asking questions, it bothers me. And then when I comment on Twitter and people start calling me a fucking maniac, I'm like, no, this is not me being a maniac. This is me. First off, I called this shit. I called it. When this happened, I was like, wait, their defense has been fire all year, and then they just put the second best quarterback in the league on the worst offense. They're going to win it all. And it did happen. But and I did get a few tweets saying I had this thing, figured out in week 6 or something, week 7, whatever the fuck that trade happened. But hold on, I want to ask you guys one more thing. But before we do that, I want to tell you that the XFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Talkify. Life is full of what ifs. Like, what if Luis Perez was sitting his ass on the couch with the Vegas Vipers? All right, and Slaughter Saturdays was happening, then you'd probably have a DC championship. But when it comes to dating, what if you try something new? All right, Talkify is a new way to meet other serious singles. What if they help you find exactly what you're looking for? Yeah, I mean, are you having a hard time meeting great people to date? I know before I met my wife, I was, right? So why do you keep on trying the same methods over and over and over if you know they're going to end up with a bad result? It's time to say goodbye to swiping and bring back the human touch to dating with Talkify. Talkify is the country's #1 modern matchmaking service that is designed to help you achieve relationship success. And here's how it works. Talkify has matchmakers that will meet with you to learn about what you're looking for in a partner. Then they'll select and screen potential match candidates for you, do background checks, make sure Linda wasn't locked up over the weekend, right? Do some video interviews, ask all the tough questions that maybe are too awkward for the first date. So don't be an idiot. Check it out. Check it out. And right now, Talkify is offering our listeners 20% off when you become a client at Talkify.com/SGPN. That's TAWKIFY.com/SGPN for 20% off when you become a client. Talkify.com/SGPN. All right, we are back on the XFL Gambling Podcast.
Locked up Linda. Sounds like a garbage pail kid or something, but it's a sex dungeon garbage pail kid.
Oh, man. Have they brought back garbage? I feel like everything goes in cycles. Have they brought back garbage pail kids yet? Because they need to.
Not to my knowledge.
You know what we're talking about, though, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I got a 3-year-old niece and a 6-year-old nephew, and to my knowledge, there's been none of that.
Dare I say, that's a problem with these kids. They don't get dirty enough. They don't get down and dirty if they're hearing it. They're too coddles, too nice,
I can vividly...
Yeah,
I can vividly remember the guy eating a bowl of cereal in the toilet seat. Garbage pail. Right? That's what I was studying when I was 3 years old. Look at me now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Was there a Colby garbage pail kid, by the way? You had to have had one. Right? Everyone had one for their name, right?
They might have. I don't know. I mean, I had a bunch. My problem was I was stupid. When I got garbage pail kids, I was very young, and I decided to put them on my dresser, right? I actually removed the sticker, put them on the dresser, and then like a year later, my pops threw out the dresser. Right. So I wish I would have just kept the cards because, it would help my memory better. But I just remember them being a blast. When I was a kid, I was like this is awesome. How's that not came back yet? It needs to come back. Maybe we can do XFL. Maybe you can do your garbage pail kids next year as your trading cards. Let's go.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, half of our ideas, yes, they're dumb, but they're not that bad.
I'm saying you could really have some fun here. Puka Williams, you can have
the lawnmower. I know.
The lawnmower. There you go. You got that
absolutely.
too.
Mowing off his feet. That'd be amazing.
There you go. All right. Well, look. Before we get out of here with our genius ideas, guys, I want to. What's up?
Sorry. No, I was going to say, let's not forget JMark did some research about what we said about Arlington. I want to hear before.
Oh yeah, JMark. I'm sorry.
Before we wrap this.
Oh, you're good. I went back. It was episode 3. We did the championship odds and best bets because they had just gotten released.
Okay.
Which I forgot Arlington was the favorite at that time at plus 400.
It was Arlington and Seattle, right? Were the two favorite, I think.
Yep. And so I pulled a couple things that we said about Arlington because we all said, we could see it happening, especially once we found out that was the hub. Then we were really on it. But Colby said that Arlington had the second best coaching tree, starting with Stoops.
Sure.
CJ really liked the running back room, especially with Pizzagate, and thinking that he could come back and do well. I like Sloter and Canella, even though Sloter didn't last very long.
Sure.
And I also just thought it was really funny in that same episode that CJ, you were very stuck on Roughnecks. We're going to be dead last. They were terrible and going to be dead last.
Yes.
And I said Vipers should be dead.
And my final power rankings prove that true. It doesn't matter about the record. I still
right.
Dead last.
Look, this is what's hilarious. I think we got to do our power rankings before we get out of here. Because guess what? As much money as I just made on Arlington, they're not my number one in the power ranking.
You know, that's so funny. And ironically, that opening game, I remember Arlington was like all of our plays of the week that game. They're playing Vegas. We're like, they're going to smoke them at home. And they looked terrible. But they did cover and win covered because they pick 6 Perez twice. And then we were saying how awful Perez is. And then they wound up trading him back and how he wins a championship for him.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah, my power rankings. Look, I feel like most years after the Super Bowl, you normally have the team that won the Super Bowl. I would have Arlington actually with Luis Perez.
They're hot.
Hey, let me ask you this.
You wouldn't want to play right now.
If they played a best of 5 with DC, do you think they'd win?
I think it goes 5 each time. I think DC would win 3-2 though, for sure.
What do you think, James?
No, I agree. I think so. I think DC would win it. It'd be close though. I think Arlington proved that they can game plan a lot better than kind of I expected, and that's nothing against Stoops. The team, I didn't know they would be able to prep that well for DC.
Right. The line would definitely be 4 or less each time. I mean, everything went right for them, but you're right. Stoops with 2 weeks. You don't give Stoops 2 weeks in that dome.
2 weeks. And to me, like, one of the things is DC. I actually think the 2 weeks probably hurt DC. You know, like you're in that, you're in
Absolutely.
that, you've been rolling, and now the offense comes out a little stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so look, 1 to 10. We've seen now back-to-back spring seasons, and we've seen a bunch of other spring seasons throughout the course of our life. If you're including like NFL Europe and stuff, where would you put 1 to 10? What would you say XFL season 1, JMark?
1 to 10. I haven't watched as much of the Europe as you have, so I don't know if I have 10 to compare it to.
Right.
But I'm just on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm putting it at 5. I'll do that for you because it had its moments, but there were also moments that I was watching it and I literally thought this just isn't comparing to what I saw in the USFL last year. The talent and the level of play and even the coaching. I mean, how many times in the USFL did you see a team get flagged for having too many on the field or them not have enough guys on the field? Like, I don't know if I ever saw in the USFL them not have enough players on the field. Yeah. So just everything, sometimes when you're watching it, it's like, this is just a downgrade. But it also had some really good moments. There were some good plays. Guys like Ja'Cour Pearson that, kind of came out of the woodworks, I guess, who haven't seen him play for a while and looked amazing. So, yeah, I'll give you on a scale of 1 to 10. I'll give you a 5. I know that's not what you asked, but that's what I'm.
No, that's fair. That's fair. CJ, how about yourself?
That's how I would answer it as well, as a scale of 1 to 10, not compared to the other alternative football leagues. My Colby database does not go as deep as yours, so I will say I'm going to say a 7 though, and this is what I agree with you on the points of the level of football and all that. But the when it was bad, and it was bad, it was definitely early on a couple weeks where it was not great. There was entertaining values to it, though, the way they had it mic'd up. And Buckley was just fucking hilarious. As a dumpster fire as it was, him saying, I fire everyone on my team. I need a new, all that shit. And then, calling audibles on their own quarterback and selling playbooks. I mean, I was compelled. It was a good series,
See, I've watched a lot of college football, a lot of other, CFL, NFL Europe, World League, anything, but I've seen once before, like in a game for one time, they have 10 players on the field. Right? Now, Terrell Buckley did this shit like 10 times. And that was and they kept giving up a block punt on one of them because they didn't have enough guys to block.
Yeah.
So I'll say I'm probably more on JMark's side. I'll say 5. Look, it's a great first year. Let's move along and let's correct some of the problems. Mm-hmm. And hey, I'm glad that we had spring football. And I'm excited for the future of this league. I want to see them all leave that hub, and hopefully they can be in their cities and be a part of the community, because that's another thing I felt like maybe hurts some of the fan things, or they do that stuff where they'll go visit classrooms and stuff like that to get some excitement going, put some fucking faces of Jordan Tamu on your Slurpee cup, something like that. That'd be cool.
Hand out flyers at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yes.
Yeah, Chuck Long style.
I just feel I just feel like that, and obviously then some of the they went kind of gimmicky on the coaches, and I think that's what JMark's trying to say.
Right.
Rod Woodson, Hines Ward, Terrell Buckley, in my opinion, did not have the chops, the resume, to be a head coach. Right. Now, they could still be a coach, and I think that's probably where we saw the product damage itself. And that's not a shot at them.
Right. In their defense, they need a name somewhere, for the league. They're going to less of a town, they had it, and that's what they can do. They can give opportunities to those guys. I mean, sure, they all did. They failed, but at least they had a chance to fail.
My thing though is like, you see, like guys normally to get their first head coaching job, they spend a lot of time as assistants, like a lot of fucking time. We mentioned Bart Andrus, who'd been coached in
that's the old school way of thinking. Come on, I think JJ Redick's going to coach the Raptors. Anyone on TV in a goddamn opinion they're slapping $30 million contracts to? They don't experience. Can you move the needle? That's all that fucking matters.
You forget that talent meets opportunity. So
yeah. Right. Well, the opportunity. What was their combined records of those three? I would like to know. All right. Well, look, folks, we will be back to preview the upcoming season next year, and if there's some big headlines, we might drop in and give you a guest episode here and there. If they announce 4 new teams, stay subscribed to the XFL Gambling Podcast. And, if they announce some new teams or some big news, we will be back to bring that to you. But stay subscribed. Also, I host the USFL Gambling Podcast, so check us out there. And all of our other podcasts, the Bottom Line Bombs Podcast. CJ, you going deep on NBA playoffs, NBA, Triple Crown, NHL, MLB regular season rolling along. You got the College World Series will be happening soon, the NCAA tournament and college baseball. So check that out. And then the NFL Gambling Podcast. Obviously, we just had the draft and the schedule release. So give JMark a follow and, subscribe to the NFL Gambling Podcast and also the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. What are you guys talking about right now, JMark?
We're going through each division and picking out who we like fantasy football wise, but more importantly, Wednesday, Victoria Edie Butler. She's the master blender at Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest it's named after Nearest Green, who is a slave that created the Tennessee whiskey process. Whoa. And it's his great-great-granddaughter. She's the master blender of Uncle Nearest now. So very excited to talk to her and get the history there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Pretty compelling.
A lot of use of the word master in that phrase.
That's right.
Go subscribe, folks. If you like whiskey, if you like football, the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. And look, I host a college football experience. We're heating things up. I'm going to be back in the US of A, God willing, in about a week. So.
Taking a hot air balloon back here? How you getting back here? You got
taking the old hot air balloon back, man.
I saw you Wizard of Oz in it through the fucking Colombian jungles there, talking Sparty football.
Yeah, look. When's the last time someone went up in a hot air balloon and started talking Michigan State football?
I love it.
That's what I'm saying. Folks, subscribe to the College Football Experience. I'm on Twitter at the Colby D. And once again, CJ Sullivan on Twitter at CJ Sullivan _ and JMark is on Twitter at JMark Football. We appreciate you for rocking with us all year. And check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. Get that SGPN app and hop in the Discord. Talk XFL with us. SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Discord. All right, folks. Until next season or till we get some big news. This is the XFL Gambling Podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
X marks the spot. X marks the crossroads. 2 straight lines crossing over in the middle. That's the letter you must see to find the treasure or the clue or the X-ray machine that's looking right inside of you. X is the letter without